Hello, 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 and welcome to Coffee with the Carter Man. Grab your brewski. How sweet it is. Now, let's do this thing because we have an incredible special edition today of Coffee with the Carter Man, the pre election edition. And we have with us, back by popular demand, America's number one political strategist, Bill Wilson. Okay, those of you who remember when he was on previously are applauding right now. Rightly so, because I know Bill's going to have some incredible insights for us. And we're going to talk to Bill. As I say, it's going to dominate the entire program. Jeez, I just about lost my notes. Um, and we're going to talk about where we are in the election right now, up to the minute, uh, where he expects us to be tomorrow, and what happens in the next administration. Toward the end of the show, we're going to bring in my two stalwart colleagues, our producer Gary and the assistant producer Sammy O, to get their perspectives on it. Totally different perspectives, and I know you value those because I've got your emails about them. And we're going to get started, though. We're going to get started, though, with a little personal note, if I may, to kind of put in perspective where we are on what I consider the most bizarre, the bizarrest, if there is such a word, political campaign in my memory. And I've been in politics for a long time. I'm going to make this quick because it's a personal note, but I think it's illustrative of what's happened over the last several months, okay? Over the last several months. Now, as some of you know, my wife got her citizenship almost exactly a year ago. Okay. Now you may be saying, why did you cross your wife's face out in black? I'll tell you why, because she's a conservative and it's not safe to be a conservative, which is part and parcel of the point I'm about to make. Okay. Okay. From the day I first met her 10 years ago, she told me from the time she was 5 years old, sitting in the mud in Honduras in front of her parents' shack, she dreamt of coming to America. The first thing she said when she got here is, I want to be an American citizen and I want to vote. I swear to God, first thing she said to me when I got her on the shores. Okay. Next thing she said was for Donald Trump. Okay. Because it was almost 8 years ago now. Um, so now she gets to vote for Donald Trump. But guess what's happened, folks? Guess what's happened? She said to me late last week, I'm kind of scared about voting next Tuesday. I said, why, Princess? You've been looking forward to this pretty much your whole life. She said, because I'm afraid of what the people who support Kamala Harris might do to me if I go to the poll. I want you to put that into your thinking cap there, and it tells you where we are in this election and why it's so damn important we do not let that vile woman and her colleagues get into office. For my wife, she explained to me that she is now, my wife, little Honduran girl, came here to vote, participate in democracy. She is now afraid to vote because Kamala Harris and her surrogates have called her a fascist, called her weak and unintelligent. Right? I'm quoting the governor of New York just yesterday, called her shallow. Okay, called her shallow and pro Hitler. Okay, this is where we are today, and she's being called garbage by the president of the United States. So naturally, she's a little afraid. What are these people going to do to me if I go vote? That's one of the reasons why this damn election is so important, folks, because of what Kamala Harris has reduced our political environment to, the worst in our history, by attacking and savaging anyone who disagrees with her. Okay? So now let's turn to where we are, where we're going to be tomorrow, and what it all portends after the voting on November 5th and into next year and the next 4 years to come. And to get that analysis, let's bring on the man of the hour, the man I rely upon most for any political analysis, and that's the maven, the guru, Bill Wilson. Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Carter, and thank you for that very generous intro.
Well, it has the, as I said last time you were on, it has the added advantage of being true. to quote Henry Kissinger.
Right.
You and I have been in politics a long time, over 50 years in
Yeah.
Washington. You've been out in the field. Nobody has worked the grassroots harder than you and cultivated it, developed it over the years. And as I said in my intro, Bill, I want to talk about three things: where we are right now.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to give you a quick read on the polls. Where you expect us to be after tomorrow, and then what it all portends after whoever is the next president takes office for the next 4 years. Okay.
Right.
So first,
Yep.
as to where we are right now, let me give you a quick encapsulation, if I may, of the polls, Bill. I know you already know all this, but for the sake of our viewers, Rasmussen's final poll just came out yesterday, says Trump is going to win 49 to 46%. Their top pollster, Mark Mitchell, says that he will sweep the battleground states. Okay. I have a lot more stats, but I don't want to get too deeply into them because I want to get your read first on whether you think Mark Mitchell is on target, whether that poll's on target, or whether the ABC poll tells us, oh, Trump's about to lose, and Kamala Harris is going to win. What do you say, Bill? What do you think?
Well, I think, look, 99% of the polls right now are nothing more than press releases. They're propaganda. And they're either designed to keep the Kamala Harris people, to keep them engaged however they can. And it's to kind of also, on the flip of it, to tell the Trump people, don't sit back. This thing is not won. And it, so they're all designed to influence people's thinking. There's very few that are honest appraisals of where we stand. Okay.
All right.
So with that in mind, I look at a guy, a Democrat, a lib, Mark Halperin, who has been fairly even keel all year in terms of his reporting. And he is not saying that Harris is dead, but he's coming about as close as you can without saying it. From his standpoint, and he's right, if Trump sweeps the quote Sun Belt, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, then essentially he will have won. That isn't 270, but at that stage, Nevada can put him over. Any of the Rust Belt states can. And of course, we're going to talk about Pennsylvania independent, which would then be the big lug to put him over the top.
Right.
And so if you look at this thing from a strategic standpoint, Trump has 3 to 4 pathways to 270.
All right.
They're any combination of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, then Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. And then if you actually could possibly add a New Hampshire or any place else, well, then that's going to open up more pathways. All right. So the number of pathways is important because things happen that you don't anticipate. And if you get blocked in one place, you want to be able to pivot to another. Harris, on the other hand, has one pathway. She is in a situation now where the only way she wins is if she draws to an inside straight. That's it. And we all know that that's one of the most improbable things to happen. If you're playing poker, the inside straight is very hard to be able to draw to.
So what do you mean by an inside straight on this political scenario?
In this instance, she has to win a Sun Belt state, and then she's got to sweep all of the Rust Belt states to get her to 272, I think it is.
Wow.
All right. And so that means, and Halperin really put this well, if you buy that, if you understand that, then everything they do has got to have a Sun Belt state in the Harris column. All right.
All right.
And since we know Arizona right now is nobody is saying that she's going to win Arizona. They've pulled down most of their advertising. The ground game is very effective. Nobody is saying she can win Arizona.
All right. Atlas Intel, which I think is a pretty good poll.
Right.
Atlas Intel puts Trump ahead by 7% in Arizona. Just confirming, backing up what you're saying. All right, go ahead.
That's right.
Yeah.
So then we go to Georgia, and
right.
they want to pretend. A few people want to pretend that she can win Georgia. It's not happening. There are some brilliant maps out that I should have sent you, but they overlaid the increase in turnout in early voting with Republican counties. Virtually the entire realm of Republican counties on the north and northwest of the state are in excess of 100% of last time, of 20. Meanwhile, we look at the Democrat counties, Fulton, DeKalb, Cobb. They're way below where they were in 2020. Now, all of that's important because the Democrats have proven they have a really hard time turning out on election day within a finite period of time.
All right.
They haven't been able to do it for the past 12 years, maybe longer. And so that's part of the reason why they need the mail-in fraud schemes, is because it's the only way they can max their vote. They should be going into tomorrow with a pad in Georgia.
Okay.
A banked number of Democrat votes already in the door that is far greater than the Republican number. They don't.
They do not.
No.
Now, according to, again, I'm relying on this Atlas Intel for this. They're saying as of this past Sunday, there were 3% more Republicans have turned out in the early voting than Democrats in Georgia, which I think you're saying is just unheard of. It's unheard of.
Oh yeah, now the Democrats will tell you, oh, that's okay. They're just voting their regular vote, and we're going to swamp them on election day. To which I would ask, when was the last time you did that? and that really is the point now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so I think Georgia is looking very good, which means you now only have one Sunbelt state that she can count on or hope to count on, and that's North Carolina.
All right, North Carolina.
God knows that Democrat governor and the mob around him have done everything they can to suppress the vote of Republicans in the mountain counties. They have refused to add polling places. They have ignored the begging of county commissions and election officials. They have been, it is borderline criminal in my thought. They have done everything they can to take those people who were devastated by the hurricane,
right,
and basically stomp on them, stomp their face in the mud.
Right.
That said, no one I know in North Carolina believes she can win it. And
Really?
these are people that live there, work there, have done politics there for 20 years, 30 years. Not one believes that she will pull that off. I don't know. I don't believe polling because it's all contrived. The samples are manipulated. It's a joke. Trafalgar and Robert Cahaley are the people that I would say are most likely to be honest on this.
Right.
And Robert says that Trump will win North Carolina.
Now, is it true? And I've read several articles claiming this, but I don't know, that she has pulled her money out of it. I've read she pulled $2 million out of North Carolina because her campaign had already written it off. And that was like a week ago. What have you heard about that?
Yeah, that, and she also cannibalized her media buy in Wisconsin. And all of that money ended up in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, because she knows if she can't win Pennsylvania, none of the rest of this matters. And excuse me, what?
Pennsylvania now, and that really gets to the crux of part of the problem here, in that, quite frankly, the Pennsylvania politics is as crooked as it comes. Philadelphia, they will vote Philadelphia 110% if in this election, if the past is prologue here. So, and fortunately, you have tremendous experience in Pennsylvania. Is there any chance? What, you know? All right, let me balance that off about with the idea that the headlines are telling us, and again, we don't know, but that 30% of Black men are saying they're going to support Trump. Well, Philadelphia is Black, okay, and that could have a tremendous impact on the vote, on the turnout, on the works in Pennsylvania. But is it possible to overcome Shapiro's cheat? I mean, we already know that he made it a point not to have enough poll watchers, but poll workers in Republican areas, right?
That's right.
So
here's the massive thing. A guy like Shapiro, who likes to present himself as Mr. Moderate, Mr. Reasonable, is nothing more than a well-dressed thug. He's gonna do anything he can to tip the scales. But here is their problem. If you go back now to 12 years, they have not been able to vote 500,000 people on election day out of Philadelphia.
All right.
They get 365, 380, but they can't get 500,000. That's where they have put themselves right now. If they can't turn out 500,000 people on election day and get their normal percentage, it's over. Doesn't matter. And that's a result of the increased Republican registration throughout the state and the extremely high in-person early voting that was done, especially in Republican counties. So the numbers right now are such that they should have, they should have about the 600 to 700,000 vote pad going into election day. They don't. They have, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and call it 400.
400,000 pad.
Yeah, that's their pad. But they need 7 or more. Realize that in the 2020 election, they came out of Philadelphia with a net of 550,000 votes, something like that.
Right, right.
And then they barely win the state. So that's how much vote there was out around the state. Now, in the intervening 4 years, that vote around the state has grown. Now, I know a lot of people want to look at the incidence of fraudulent registrations that have been found in York and Bucks and Lancaster,
right,
and a bunch of other counties.
Right.
To which I would say to you, in years past, they never would have been found. They would have been allowed to slip through, and those 10,000 people would have voted. Almost certainly would have voted. So I'm actually very pleased. I'm kind of encouraged by the integrity efforts that are going on because they're actually stopping this crap. Hopefully, some of these DAs will put some of these lefty slugs out in Arizona in prison for a very long time.
Yeah.
The fact that you have DAs in Lehigh, of all places, and Lancaster, and I believe Lucerne, who have launched investigations with the intent of bringing criminal charges.
Now, do you think
that is huge? That's
do you
big.
think the fact that they are taking this legal action is going to scare Shapiro enough so maybe he'll pull back from the big cheat that I'm sure he has designed already?
I think he's looking. It wouldn't pull him back, Carter, but it sure as hell will make him sit down and figure out how to cover his ass a little better.
Yeah, because
all
so
right,
far he's been
and that may or
exposed
may
time
not
and
be
again.
able to be done. Who knows?
And so far he has been exposed as already having tried to cheat time and again. But let me ask you this, a little bit from left field, but just your thinking on this, because you are a master strategist. Could it be possible that Shapiro is looking to 2028, and that also may make him say, you know, if Harris loses, it's not only is it no skin off my teeth, but it's to my benefit. Is that possible?
Of course. Of course.
Because he thinks
nobody has ever confused Josh Shapiro with a patriot. I can assure you that.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who is out for him.
Yeah.
And of course he's hoping that. You know, one has to ask, you saw that absolutely obscene performance by JoJo the Talking Eggplant up in Scranton over the weekend. Am I supposed to believe that sneering, nasty, almost unhinged performance by Biden?
Oh, it was unhinged. That's when we said he was going to smack our asses.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and the look on his face and the whole bit. Does anybody think for a minute that he thought that was going to bring vote for Kamala? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I
don't think so. Let me just address that real quick, if I may, because I think what you just raised a point that I'm sure is on our viewers' minds right now. Is it possible that Biden intentionally sabotaged her campaign? I keep going back to the garbage comment. It was not just that he called the voters garbage. It's when he did it.
Right.
While she
shut
was
down the coverage of her big event. It was
right in the middle of her big event in the mall in his backyard.
Right. Yeah.
He gives an interview and calls it.
He is clearly, I mean, take a step back. He's clearly in the throes of dementia. There is nobody now who argues with that. They'll argue about the degree of it, but they won't argue the if of it. And what we know about people who have entered that stage is that they fixate, and that beyond fixating, they become aggressive.
Yes.
Now, he was aggressive. I am not giving up the presidency. I am not giving up the nomination. And then somewhere on a weekend between Pelosi and Obama, whatever they said, he stepped down. Now, he steps down, and almost instantly you have Pelosi and the talking heads of the propaganda legacy media saying, oh, well, we're going to have an open convention, and it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And then Joe Biden says, screw that. I want Kamala. I think that she was his revenge from the beginning.
Excellent.
And that now, every time she looks like she may be getting her legs, there he is, smack her. And it's happened 3 times already.
3 times.
And And so I think in their mind, her and the gorgeous Dr. Jill, that they want to go down in the history books as the only people that beat, quote unquote, Donald Trump.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
Anecdotally, you mentioned Biden today. I had a doctor's appointment earlier today, right? And one of the things that happened several days ago, I persuaded him to let me take some medicine called Gabertine or some such thing. And when I went today, I told he said, "Well, how'd that work out?" And I said, "Well, I should have listened to you and not taken that, because I said, I got to be honest with you. I took 2 pills and I never took another one, because all of a sudden I was drowsy. I couldn't stay awake. I was lightheaded, and I find myself wandering around nonplussed and lost. I felt like I turned into Joe Biden. I mean, it was that bad."
Yeah.
He said, "Wait a minute, I'm not supposed to talk politics, but I get the picture." Right? So you, yeah.
So, I mean, if you watch him, watch the entire piece on the Scranton deal from this weekend, where he, smack him on the ass, remember we went to the back of the yard, we did this, and it's all this old man crap. And I know, because I be one, and it just it isn't reality. And but he had a purpose, and his purpose was to offend. And his purpose was to have casual Republicans who may be sitting on the couch get so angry, that they get up and go vote, because that's what happened.
All right. So right now, according to the poll I keep throwing up at you, this Atlas Intel, they're saying that that in Pennsylvania, Trump has a 2-point lead. A 2-point lead in Pennsylvania. Now, 2 points, to me is nothing when it comes to Shapiro's machinations. But we also know that Trump usually runs 2 to 3 points ahead of what the polls show. So,
right,
that would be enough, right? I mean, if
how do you poll? Ask me this. Answer this. How do you poll Amish people? I mean, how do you poll them? They don't have a phone.
No, they don't have a phone. They do not have a phone, and they're not real talkative.
No, but if you go and look at the early voting sites in Lancaster County and all along the southern border of Pennsylvania, over the past couple of weeks, you will find lines of 2 and 3 miles of horse and buggies going in to vote.
Unbelievable. We have never seen that, right? We have never seen that.
He got a huge vote in 2016 because of Hillary's attacks on wood-burning stoves. But the Biden regime now, on wood-burning stoves, on raw milk, on the ability of a farmer, a family, to raise food for themselves, all of these things are now, no, they have done that. So I sit here and I ask myself, 2 points in Pennsylvania, I don't buy it. They can't poll the Amish.
Right.
They can't poll the attitude of young Black men who either might vote for Donald Trump, but more likely just won't vote.
Just won't vote.
And that kills them. They cannot. I think they're having a hard time polling union members. And that they're afraid to speak their mind. But what we know from people inside the auto workers, the steel workers, the oil and chemical workers, Trump is going to win those people hand over fist.
Hand over fist. And the coal and the oil workers in this state.
Oh God, yeah.
The fracking is huge. And look, right. She has played.
So I start adding all this up, and I can't see, where is her lifeline. Am I supposed to believe that there are enough single purple-haired women in suburban Philadelphia to pull her across the line? No. Thank God there aren't that many of them. They're just loud and obnoxious.
Yes, they are.
But
Yes, they are.
there aren't enough of them.
I will say this, Bill. I'm in Pennsylvania, as you know, in York, which obviously this city will go overwhelmingly for her, even though there is no enthusiasm. I can tell you that. My neighbors down the street who always vote Democrat, they just announced to me last Thursday, we're just not going to vote at all. They can't bring themselves to vote for Trump, but they're going to stay home. But I have, if I could show you my phone right now, my cell phone, I have at least 7 messages, text messages from the Republicans, Trump campaign, Pennsylvania campaign, York Republican Party, the Pennsylvania Republicans saying, don't forget to vote. You got to vote. I just got one right before we came on saying, hey, we noticed you haven't voted yet. Now, how in the hell did they even know that? I mean,
Well,
right.
I wish they would be that accurate up here. I mean, I voted weeks ago, and yet I'm still getting hammered with that 25, 30 a day text too. But it's actually fairly simple. Most counties will make available to both campaigns a list of registered voters who have voted early. And then you simply run a purge. Now, what they haven't done, they're doing it some in Arizona, and it's working. So I get the list, and I come in on Wednesday, and I look at the list, and I see that I've got 400 people registered R's that have voted. Okay. That 400 should instantly now get an entirely different pitch, which is not go vote. Will you help us get votes? Will you hit some people in your neighborhood? Will you make calls? Will you man a polling place?
Wow.
And that is not that, because that is not a Republican approach, because they don't want people involved. I mean, the Karl Roves and that group, they don't want people to be involved. But in Arizona, they are actually doing it, and it seems to be working quite well.
All right, you mentioned Karl Rove. I'm glad you did, because it brings up something. It's a fear in the back of my mind. And you may say, Carter, you're nuts. You're way off base there. But it's just a fear in the back of my mind that I'll be nice and say rascally George Bush could give a last minute endorsement of Kamala Harris just because he's so damn vile. Do you think
he is vile? He is vile. I don't think, look, now we're Monday here at 1:30.
Yeah.
If little Bush was going to endorse Kamala, that would have happened. It doesn't have enough time to have an impact. You would have needed that last week, Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh, good.
I don't think so. I detest George Bush. I detest his whole CIA-based family. I hate everything about him.
The whole family, the whole damn family.
The whole family, right.
Oh.
Realize where the fortune came from. It came from war profiteering in World War I. That's right. Where the money came from.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So we know that, okay? But to his credit, Bush 43 has stayed out of most politics. Now, do I think he'll show up at a Trump inaugural? I hope not. I don't want him there.
No, we don't want him there.
No. I don't think the American people want him there.
I don't think so.
But that would be the extent of it. So far he's had opportunities and he hasn't taken them. So I count that as fine. If you listen to Karl Rove, though, it's more disgusting than ever. His analysis is from the perspective of a Republican Party that is dead and in the ground. The Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley world is done. It's done. And everything to try and revive it is just wasted energy.
And I want to get to that in just a few minutes with you. But let me ask you about another ex-president, Bill Clinton. For one thing, I got to, you never know who's going to see these videos. So I want a special message to Bill Clinton. Bill, tell your damn idiot daughter to let you eat some meat. I mean, for God's sake, ever since his idiot daughter persuaded him to become a vegan, he just looks more and more like death warmed over. But he has done, to me, he's done more damage to Kamala Harris than he has done good. Do you think that's intentional? Because Hillary said, I don't want her to be the first woman president if I couldn't be. No?
No, first off, I think I have no idea how far back in history that Hillary Clinton had any ability to tell Bill Clinton what to do. All right. And vice versa. I mean, that's not happening. I think he is so happy to be involved, so happy to be asked that he doesn't care. And that then he gets out there and he just does his thing and he starts talking and he steps on himself. And that literally, it has nothing. I don't think there's anything planned there. I think this is just Bill Clinton so happy to be at the table.
And I think you may well be right. So let's go back to right where we started on this particular segment. There are 7 swing states, battleground states. The Rasmussen has said there is a very likely chance that Trump could sweep all 7.
Right.
And you're saying you think he may be right. Bottom line, is that right?
He has an outside shot. Always remember on Michigan that in 2022, a far left proposal, constitutional amendment, was put on the ballot in Michigan and passed that fundamentally altered their election process. That there is same-day registration. There is no proof of citizenship. There is no ID. There is no ability for a local to protest. It's illegal to protest the vote. The entire system that was enacted is simply the ratification of fraud. We will never lose a statewide election ever again. That was the stated intent of the measure. So for Trump or any Republican to win the state of Michigan, I think you're going to need to be winning it by 5, 6, 7 points. And there's nobody who says he's got that.
No, they're saying 2. They're saying 2. 2 is what they're saying. Which,
right. And so if it's 2, and I'm part of the Whitmer machine, that disgusting coven of witches up there, and I decide that I get the word and it looks like holy hell, I need 100,000 votes. They can register them that day and vote them that day. You can't ask for an ID. You can't ask for citizenship. So you take 100 people and you just bicycle them around from place to place to place.
Wow.
And you voted 2,000 votes with that 100 people from lunchtime to close. Now multiply that by the number that they can have. Is it feasible to say they can put together 100,000 votes? Absolutely.
Unbelievable. So, but Trump, let me make clear for everybody watching, Trump only needs to carry out of the, 7 states, battleground states.
He needs 4.
He needs 4.
Yeah. Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. And I predict he's going to win all 4 of those.
Fantastic. Excellent. That's what we wanted to hear. All right.
I think he wins all 4 of those.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. And that takes us to where you see things going. All right. Let me say something here because I don't want to miss this. This to me was one of the most shocking things. We talked about cheating.
Right.
That is cheating on a scale that I think is unheard of, unprecedented in American history. That crook, that Raytheon-owned Secretary of Defense, did not allow our troops overseas to vote. Do you see that headline? I mean, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It is. But I mean, look at everything. And if you want the greatest indication, Carter, of how this election's going, look at the way the system has reacted. All right. So whether it is a monster corporation like Comcast that owns NBC, knowingly and willfully violating the Federal Election Campaign Act and the
Yes.
Federal Communication Act.
Yep.
They violated both of those by putting that witch on that stupid Saturday Night Live.
Bill, that was a campaign ad for Kamala
yeah.
Harris. A campaign ad.
Which is an illegal. See, now they get around the equal time problem by giving Trump the minute and a half on NASCAR, some football game. And I think Trump's people made the right call. Might as well take it, because nothing is going to happen legally between now and Tuesday.
Yeah.
Take the spot. But that was an illegal corporate contribution.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was an illegal corporate contribution. And all three of the networks have acted in ways that I frankly think their license should be revoked and they should be put up for auction. And and all the money accrue to the taxpayers of the United States.
Bill, according to Media Research Council, you and I know the folks over at Media Research Council, Brent Bozell, great people.
Great people.
According to their analysis, you mentioned the networks, 84% of network news coverage of Kamala Harris was positive. 89% of their coverage of Trump was negative.
Right.
That's simply appalling. That's simply appalling. They
I think, Carter, look, I think there are a number of ways. I'm not joking here about this. I think that there should be immediate action by the FCC to revoke their license.
Yes.
And then put them up on an auction. Starting bid $10 billion. And let's see who wants those things. And let the Treasury get the money. Because God knows we need it. And if Comcast loses it and their stock goes in the toilet and a bunch of scumdogs lose everything, oh well. Too bad.
Bill, this is Kirsten Welker interviewing Tom Cotton. That's not sanity. Those are not sane eyes. Look at the look while Dana Bash, who does nothing but read CIA handouts from her ex-husband, look at the look on that face interviewing Lindsey Graham. And of course, the worst one of all, I think this woman had plastic surgery and had this look affixed to her face for whenever she interviews a Republican. Look at this.
She scares me, actually. Yeah.
She's frightened. She belongs to the mental institution. And those are the people that have done this coverage, 84% positive for Kamala, 89% negative for Trump. So it's miraculous what this man has done, what Trump has done over the past several months. It's simply miraculous.
Oh, incredible. And look, it's indicative of the fact that the entire system that these people have been put up, that we've seen grow and evolved and then metastasize since World War II, no longer represents the consent of the governed.
No.
Nope, they don't.
They just
don't. They know it. And they don't care. And Donald Trump, for all his flaws, for all his mistakes, for all of his crudeness, Donald Trump is shoved it down their throats. And they are out of control, angry about it.
Relentlessly. All right. I want to finish up talking about where you see this country going after November 5th into the next year and the next 4 years. But before we get to that, I want to finish up on that because I think it's important. And I want to review what you think it would be if Harris won, what you think it would be if Trump wins. But before we do that, I know that our producer Gary and our assistant producer Sam right now have 1,000,001 questions for you because they're huge fans and they're smart guys. So let's have a four-way here just for a few minutes, for about 10 minutes, and get their insights as well. Gary is, he is very different than you and me. He has tattoos. So that alone sets him apart. And Sam is a millennial and from Nigeria, not from Nigeria, I'm sorry, whose parents are from Nigeria.
All right. There we go.
There we go. So, guys, you've heard it. You've heard this incredible discussion. What's your feel? What are your questions? What are your queries? What are your comments?
I'm on board with everything Bill said.
Everything you've said.
I mean, I've been repeating it all myself.
Yeah. Everything sounds really encouraging, though.
Yeah.
I like what you were saying about, Trump getting the swing states and, really clenching them this time because, they're always crucial, of course. But
sure.
Yeah. And I like the turnout, and it is true, most Black Americans, African Americans, the men specifically, just given what I've read on social media, I would like to imagine more would be going out to vote this year. But that's kind of my own guesswork there. But the turnout, I feel like, will be overall much more stronger, especially with like minorities. Just kind of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, when you, Sam, when you talk to your Black friends, do you sense that they, especially among the men, that they're more leaning toward Trump, or at least not enthused about Kamala at all? What do they say? Do they say we just hate the woman? I hope.
Yeah, definitely more towards Trump. I think overall men prefer Trump just in general because just he's that strong masculine energy,
Right.
So and I would imagine they're going to go out and vote because I know I've been reading too how I'm a millennial, but I've heard that Gen Z, it's kind of down the middle. Many who may or may not be voting for Trump, they're actually lying to people saying that, I voted for Kamala just to save face. So
right.
Yeah, it's kind of so I would imagine they are. I would imagine I am. Everyone knows I'm a Trump supporter. I'm conservative, so this will be my third time voting for him.
So, yeah, there you go.
I think it's a lot of talk, a lot of hibbity hula this time around. Gen X is going to have the biggest voter turnout. People my age are getting there because we're working, we're raising children, and we just dealt with the worst 4 years of our entire 40-some-year-old lives. You will see the biggest turnout from us. A lot of those boomers that they say, they'll vote for her, or the boomer women, a lot of them ain't voting at all.
Yeah.
They don't get to go to the nursing home full of COVID patients this time, fill out 1,000 ballots, and have some woman stuff them in a box. It ain't happening.
Well, Gary,
you're going to see guys my age at the polls standing in line. If it takes 3-4 hours, if they got to call off work tomorrow, they're going to do it because we're done. We are done with this. We're absolutely done with this administration.
And you notice in Iowa, the Seltzer survey poll out of Iowa shows Kamala Harris leading by 7%. But when you look at the cross breaks, Bill, I'm sure you've noticed this. Yeah. She overweighted octogenarians because she is one.
Well, it's worse than that. I mean, the Des Moines Register has been a propaganda outlet for 50, 60 years.
Yep.
And the only explanation is they were desperate to try and divert Trump resources into Iowa. And that, to their credit, they have such a great rapid response and research team That thing wasn't out 5 hours, and they already had vote. They had data back. They called BS on the whole thing.
Oh, good. Good.
So I mean, yeah, statewide, Trump is up by 10.
Yep.
In the rural districts, he's up by 20 plus. Yeah, he's not going to lose Iowa. Give me a break.
No.
I'm convinced that woman's never actually polled
maybe
anyone.
Sam can find us a place in Nigeria because I want out.
Did you see the clip? She was asked by someone. He pulled up every other pollster's poll, and it was laid out R, the poll number, D, the poll number. It was the most simplistic thing you could have looked at. And he asked her, how does she explain this if that's her call on Iowa? And she said, what am I looking at? And he said,
Right.
the polls. And she said, well, what's the R and the D?
That's right.
At that moment, I knew this woman has never polled a single person. She takes a chunk of money from each campaign,
Right.
spits out a bunch of nonsense, and they eat it up. That's it.
She got to eat. Come on.
Gotta eat.
Yeah.
I could not believe. I'm not a pollster. None of you.
Well,
you could have looked at this, and it would have taken 3 seconds of an IQ higher than 70 to understand what you were looking at. And she had no clue what she was looking at. So I'm supposed to assume that Trump, that was up 11 points in Iowa a day before, suddenly shifted that far. That they're out of their minds.
Right. Well, look, but they're desperate, Gary, and
They are.
everything is gaslighting. Has been. I mean, we're coming near the end of the day before, so maybe it'll ease a little bit tonight and tomorrow morning. But the amount of crap they have been feeding us, desperate to get anything to
That's
stick.
been this whole campaign, this entire campaign.
Now, meanwhile, we're performing a color revolution in Georgia against the people there. We're sinking many, many, many more billions into the insanity of the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know about Gaza, the Israelis, and Taiwan. An area where Sam's parents came from, up in the northern part, Maui, Burkina Faso, and there's another one, and I can't remember it. But 3 nations that overthrew the French, kicked the French out, as they should have, quite frankly. Yeah. And we're now being caught funding the Islamists who are causing trouble and butchering people over there. Now, is it a direct pipeline from Langley to those groups? No, of course not. But if you trace the money that these groups are suddenly getting to buy arms, it goes right back. And oh, by the way, a significant number of the arms killing people in that part of West Africa, guess where they came from?
And that's the sad reality.
Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're our guns.
I've got to be honest with you. I don't want to get into the Israel debate, but I've got to say, perhaps the most ridiculous statement that Kamala Harris has made in the past year was when they were debating Israel moving into Rafah in Gaza.
Oh,
and
dear
Kamala
God.
Harris said, I've studied the maps.
Her and Biden did, huh?
I just want you to try and wrap yourself around that. Kamala Harris saying I've studied the maps of Rafah.
She said, I've been in the war room. I don't think you have, Lynn. I don't think they've invited you in the office when they're discussing these things.
That's a whole show in itself. I mean, the lunacy of American foreign policy, our continued slavish devotion to the slugs of Europe. Why are we continuing? And I'll go on my soapbox for 30 seconds here. We have become nothing more than the enforcers of their post-colonial order. And it's our job to be the new colonial taskmaster. To which I say, why?
Why?
I would rather have friends in Africa and South America and Asia and let the damn Europeans deal on their own. Because what do we know? They have no energy, they have no minerals, they have so slugged out their population that they can't get them to work more than 30 hours a week.
Yep.
In a word, screw them.
Yep.
How many of our people died for that bunch of trash?
It's
Way
just,
too many.
that's the bottom line, and it's going to continue if she's elected. And Bill, the one thing they do have, we know that Zelensky's wife has a $5 million Bugatti.
Yeah, I know.
$5 million Bugatti.
He's got a pretty nice yacht as well that he bought last year.
Yeah, exactly. All
So,
right.
I mean, so all of that I think is important. I think it's important that increasingly those arguments are being made more by Vance, but a little bit by Trump, and that they're being made to first and second generation Americans from foreign places who get it, who understand it, and that we have no business shilling for a bunch of colonial masters. We don't.
None.
And,
None whatsoever.
and that it's just time for us to tell them, you go do your own dirty work. Period.
Precisely.
We're not
And
doing it anymore.
And that brings us to Bill. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Bill,
Thank
I
you.
want you to stay here, Bill, to talk about what happens very briefly. We have about 5 minutes left, Bill, for you to give us your read on where this country goes if Harris, God forbid, is elected, where it goes if Trump is elected. First of all, where are we going to, should Harris, again, God forbid, be elected, where is she going to take this country?
Oh, she's told us. I mean, we are going to go full blown People's Republic. She is going to attack the underlying final foundations of the economic system. We're going to see handing out homes to people. The amount of graft and looting will be on a scale no one can imagine.
Can even imagine.
In foreign policy, it's only going to get worse because, Jojo didn't do anything except cover his rotten son's bad behavior in Ukraine and other places. Meanwhile, the deep state continued to run things, and we see what the result was. It'll only be worse with her.
It'll only be worse with her. And addressing exactly what you just said, they asked her yesterday, did you vote for or against the measure on the ballot in California to have stricter penalties for drug traffickers? And her response was, oh, well, I just don't want to say one way or the other.
Right.
What does that tell you about which is exactly what you just said? She's going to unleash on us if she is elected.
And so the number of deaths from overdose it just, they cannot manipulate the statistics enough. You're going to see increased crime. You're going to see increased economic dislocation, higher drug deaths, and this idea of criminal gangs taking over low-income apartment complexes or basically going into small towns.
Yep.
Yeah, you're going to see more of it.
Done. Now, on the other hand, let's close with this. If Trump wins, I noticed that Mitch McConnell now is on the attack. He is. Mike Lee had a great op-ed in The Blaze. You probably saw it, where he was saying McConnell needs to shut up, because McConnell is saying this is not this is not the Republican Party. Trump is wrong about everything he says. I'm still a Ronald Reagan Republican. Reagan would hate Trump. What is Trump finally going to clean up that damn party?
Oh, I think the party is in the process of being cleaned up. I'm very, they're still, the people running Trump's campaign, a couple of them are still dyed-in-the-wool RNC GOP Inc. hacks,
Right.
and they're funneling mountains of money to their buddies. But the ability to move the issues are such that I think the old Republican Party is dead. What do I see, though, is a complete and total opposition and resistance. And I think Trump this time, unlike the first term, is prepared for it. So Mitch McConnell, you want to hold up a measure? Fine. I'm going to find anything you care about and I'm going to crush it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Oh, and your wife's brother, the Communist Party official, maybe we arrest his scrawny ass next time he comes into the country. You know, there are a whole billion things that he can do that he was not prepared to do the first time. I think he's prepared. The last one I would just give, you know, if you read the media and you look at where the source of our problems are, when you get down to implementation on immigration, the economy, foreign policy, across education, it's always these quote unquote nonprofits.
Yeah.
These are nothing more than front groups of the left that hide behind an IRS designation, funnel mountains of dark money into radical politics.
Yep.
Those NGOs are target number one. Period.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Bill. Thank you very, very much. This has been fantastic, just as I knew it would be. Once again, you have given us the highlights of the lowdown, and
hopefully it all comes to pass.
And nobody does it better. So thank you very, very much for joining us.
Glad to.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you. All right, folks, there you have it. There's the prognostication that I think you can count on. As I said just now, nobody does it better than Bill Wilson, America's #1 political strategist. So get out there, vote, fight, fight, fight. Let's do this thing. Let me get my cup in the right spot.